mentioned it yourself. Now you're originally from, and correct me if I'm wrong, New York City?
Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn.
Oh wow. Okay.
But I was only there till I was 3 years old, 4 years old, and then the family moved to Brentwood and Long Island after that.
You barely lost the accent.
Yeah. If I ever go to New York, man, they think I'm just 100% redneck. They know, because
I swear I was born here.
I'm telling you, man. Look, here's my birth certificate with my
comedian, 100% showman, and a martial artist.
Oh, you've been digging.
We're going to see how much ass this guy's going to kick today. Please welcome Frankie Paul. How are you, man?
I'm good, my friend.
Once your feet hit the floor today, what was in your life on the east coast of Florida in Melbourne today? What'd you do?
I got up, went back to Walmart to pick up all the shit that I didn't pick up yesterday, even though it was on the list. And then I came home and cleaned my bong.
This is awesome, man. Well, you mentioned it yourself. Now, you're originally from, and correct me if I'm wrong, New York City?
Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But, I was only there till I was 3 years old, 4 years old. And then the family moved to Brentwood and Long Island after that. And then I remember saying goodbye to my first grade teacher in 71 and hello to my new Florida teacher later that year. We moved September of 71.
I got to tell you, man, you barely lost the accent.
Yeah. If I ever go to New York, man, they think I'm just 100% redneck. They know, because
I swear I was born here.
I'm telling you, man. Look, here's my birth certificate.
So when you were in New York City until you were 3 or 4, by the time you were 4 or so, how many gangs or people did you kill in New York City?
Only 6.
Okay, just making sure.
It's weird. You got to take out the legs first so you can get to the throat.
Right, at your size.
Only 4.
Yeah. Let me ask you this on a serious note. What the transition from New York and then Long Island and then coming down to Melbourne, not even like Orlando or Tampa or Miami. You went to Melbourne.
Man.
What brought you there?
There's well, my mom moved down because my parents got divorced. And that's how come my sister and my mom came here. Okay. And her favorite person in the world, her cousin, my aunt, Ann, lived here already. So that was our only connection to Florida with some familiarity. So she chose to come here. There's a bridge that goes from crossing the Kissimmee River that goes from Brevard County into St. Cloud and Kissimmee. When I moved here, that was made of wood.
Oh, wow.
It's a causeway now.
But... That's pretty wild.
Yeah, it was a neat little town back then. It's getting too dang big now.
Well, were you already like into comedy when you were a kid, or was that something that came later?
Yeah, I got into comedy probably right around 75, 76 when I was around 11, 12. But we got hooked up. First, I got hooked up on a Tommy Chong record, and it was kind of beyond me at 11 and 12. I listened to it, but I wasn't old enough to appreciate it yet. I'm just like, what are these guys talking about? Who the hell is Dave? And after that, we hooked up with George Carlin, Class Clown, and I wore that out. Bought another one, wore that out. And then came Richard Pryor, then came Steve Martin. And after school, I would go listen to those records on this tiny little orange record player that I had. And I would just sit there and just listen to them over and over. I didn't really think I'd become a comedian, but I was already in love with the art form.
Yeah.
At 11 or 12.
Wow.
What age did you figure out you kind of wanted to try it?
Actually, other people decided I wanted to try it before I did. I was working at a place called Harris Semiconductor here in Melbourne, big giant computer chip making place. And my boss told me that we were going to have an employee party, and part of that was going to be a talent contest. The whole thing was to boost morale. And he goes, I signed you up to do 5 minutes of comedy. And I was like, what? And he goes, you have to do it. And I was like, okay. So I wrote some material based on the machines I was working on. And of course, it's my first time on stage, and it wasn't clean. It wasn't filthy, but it wasn't clean. And there were these 3 judges that were a lot older. They were like in their 60s, 70s. And the crowd loved me, but they disqualified me. It was so funny. Everybody thought I had won until the first place came out, and then I wasn't even placed. And then we had come to find out that I got disqualified. I didn't care because you know what? It's not the prize that bites you; it's the crowd that bites you. And so when the fact that they liked me, you know, that put an arrow right in me, and I was poisoned from then on.
Wow.
Started, and I worked graveyard shift, so I worked from midnight to 7. So I would haul ass from Melbourne to Orlando just to get my 5 minutes in on a Tuesday, and then try to make it back to work. And at that point, I started to MC. And back then, you can make $300 a week MCing. I mean, it was a different time. It was the end of the boom and the beginning of the whole reconstruction.
Yeah.
And so my boss finally said, you know, he gave me a good deal that made me less frightened. He was like, look, man, you're out of vacation time. You never get to work on time. He goes, just leave, go try it. And if it doesn't work, I'll hire you back. And that was 33 years ago.
Wow.
So you've been in the game, since what, 89, 90, somewhere?
I started May of 88, and I quit my job October 1st, 1990.
Damn. Now, I don't know if you covered, but what of this talent show or what was going on, what made your boss choose you to do? Were you like
I was the class clown at work, basically.
Yeah, okay.
And but we never really talked about me doing it, you know, professionally or even trying it. But I guess he got on a whim. He still takes that credit to this day.
Yeah, why not?
I started Frankie. Without him, none of y'all would even know him.
That's awesome. It's just such a nice gesture, though. Like, what kind of boss or leader?
Right. We just
nowadays.
say, look, I'll miss you if you go, but I'll take you if you come back. And I was like, okay, that's a wonderful situation to be in.
And,
that's good.
And what's that transition like when you were about what age are we talking about when this?
In 90 I was 26.
Okay, young dude.
Started at 24.
Yeah, young dude. Now you don't have the regular the constant or consistent paycheck, even though you can go back
to your
career.
So the wife kind of bailed me out of that.
Okay, but my
wife had a steady job, so it helped. Of course, helped me in the early days when I was driving. And out of respect for that, I would do anything I could to bring home every penny. I went eating cheese Pringle sandwiches for lunch and stuff like that, and so I could bring it all home. And I was leaning on Bonkers a lot back then because they were a big deal back then.
Yeah.
And they introduced me to some other people, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And working with guys like Daryl Hammond and Tom Rhodes and Billy Gardell, all those guys kind of took me under their wing. And Tom Rhodes was the one guy, and one phone call got me bumped from MC to feature.
Wow.
We were working together, and he goes, "You're MCing again?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's what I got." And he goes, "Hang on." Back then, you had to go get the phone at the front desk of the hotel because no one had a cell phone.
Yeah.
So he went up to the front desk and he calls Joe and said, "This is Frankie's last MC gig." And he was like, "All right." And that was it. I didn't MC again after that.
Damn.
Yeah, that's the kind of clout they had already.
And like I was saying before, another great Florida comedian, right?
Yeah, all three of those guys came up here.
You stay in touch with Tom or Billy and the gang? Or I know Daryl. SNL
Billy's so busy, but I talk to him every now and then. I hate bothering him because he's famous, and I hate bothering famous people.
Wow.
And but yeah, whenever he's around, we talk. Last time he was in town, a couple of years ago, when he was in town, we went and saw him, and we got to hang out and talk for a while. And I still talk to Tom, and I don't talk to Daryl much anymore. But the rest of us talk on Facebook. There's a big old group of us on Facebook. So we kind of just watch each other. You know how comics are. You don't see each other, talk to each other for 2 years, and then you see each other, and it's like you just said goodbye yesterday.
You know how comics always hang out afterwards to eat
Yeah.
stuff? Do you have any good Gardell eating stories? Because I'm picturing, like at a Waffle House or something, just what he might have post-show.
We used to eat a lot, but we were all eating junk back then because
Yeah.
everybody thought it was good for you. He did a good, funny thing to me one time where we were all still, it was the last open mic of Bonkers in their old building before they moved to their new building over on Lee Road that was a monstrous 250-seater. And I was on stage doing my set and just bombing. I mean, bombing. It was like church quiet. And so Billy decides to just walk into the back, and he goes into the booth and starts playing a theme from The Godfather to try to get me to stop. But it was interesting back then because if you were working together, all three of you, there's so many times where you would just get on stage together after the show and just mess around. And we don't do that much anymore, but we would like interrupt each other's sets and everything. And it was almost like it was just the three of us and everybody else was just like outside. And but things have kind of gotten tighter since then. But
yeah, people, it's not as playful.
It's not near as playful. You're right.
Well, I have a question for both of you about that. Either one, or I'd like to hear both of you guys because you've been in comedy a lot longer than myself. Why is that? Now, is that just one of those things nowadays because we're in the 21st century and it's all about, you know, us and myself and my career? But why can't it be that, or can it be that way anymore? Like, why can't it be that way?
I think it could be that way if we all just started doing it again, maybe. But maybe it's got something to do with how every so often our attention span becomes less.
Yeah.
And
it's harder to keep people's attention in the first place at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
And then came social media, and now it's like, that's why I like doing old crowds now. They put the phones up.
Yeah, there's too many distractions that are available for people. Instead of they're going to a show, but still they're being distracted by themselves.
Right.
And there's too much. One of the reasons it's not as playful is because there's too much tension in the air. You know,
that's a really good point.
It's like there's just too much. People aren't willing to let down their guard anymore.
Right.
That's a social thing. We're just reflecting society.
Right.
The same thing in this. Like you go to the store, people aren't as they're not as friendly as they used to be.
And they're shocked when you are.
Yeah.
It's almost like you stun them.
Yeah. It's like you're trying to pull a move on them or something by being nice.
Yeah. What's he doing?
He's being nice.
Yeah. For no reason. That's a lie.
Yeah, I know.
Why are you holding that door? I don't know.
He's gonna hit me with it.
Yeah. You're trying to weaponize the door. Stop it.
That's right. It's all got to be a trigger word. It's like a trigger word. It's all got to be. It's always got to be.
Yeah.
I think Frankie's right. You just kind of got to just do it. If you especially if you feel the crowd and it's like you got your partners on the show. If you're feeling it, just do it and see what happens. What's the worst
come out and play around. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Do you know like how much right now? Touring, like, do you do a lot out of Florida, Frankie?
After COVID, I retired to the state.
Okay.
Before that, it was all over, mostly on the eastern half of the country, other than Vegas and some private gigs out there. They're saturated with comics on that side of the country and just use them. So there's really not a whole lot of work, and it's really almost not conducive based on the pay to go any further. Right. But yeah, I went around the country for 32 years, and then I wanted to kind of settle down because my wife's already retired. But now with things the way they are, I don't even think about it. Got a whole lot of rebuilding to do on our retirement. But
I was going to ask you why when you're talking about now you're considering more retirement type stuff. One of the questions Pat always asks the comics on the show is how COVID affected them.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it kind of like changed your trajectory, or did it kind of speed it up?
It changed it, I think. Well, a little of both. It definitely speeded it up. Even though I was planning to look for a spot to just retire to the state, you know, it helped when you had 2 years and 15 shows. And you're like, oh, this is horrible. And, you know, I tried doing the synthetic shows with the Zooms and all that. And I was like, I can't do this. This is just awful.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of ran as much as we could. And people were, you know, the clubs are feeling the same heat. They're like, we're going to test the water, see if we can do a show. And so we kept trying to do stuff. But now that because I'm 58 now, so I can play. And there's over, you know, there's 250, 55 and over communities just in our state.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they don't like leaving.
No.
They want you to come to them so they can just take the golf cart and the wine bag and just go have fun and then take their asses right back home.
You know, I think that's kind of becoming a trend.
Big time.
You know,
you got to watch who's booking it. Because, I mean, if someone calls you and it ain't big money, then they're making a huge paycheck on your ass.
Yeah. Oh,
because they pay. So if somebody offers me like a few $100 to do one, I'll say no because I know what they're paying.
Yeah, especially those retirement communities. Oh,
yeah,
man, come on, dude.
No, but I have some bookers that are really fair about it, and those are the guys I stick with.
Yeah.
There goes my chances of booking Frankie.
There it goes.
I got 150 and a steak dinner in it for you.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's fair of me. You know, it's fair of me to ask. Okay, that's what you're offering me. What do you get?
Yeah. What I saw some stuff you got. Was it a black belt a while ago? Well, what discipline in martial arts are you in?
I took American Kempo karate,
Ooh,
and
Nice,
that all started with my son. Because when he was little, we tried soccer, and he played, but, I couldn't get him to play baseball, football, basketball. He wasn't interested in anything that had a ball or team stuff. And I'm like, well, I got to get him into something. And then I'm watching him on the soccer field. And, as all the other kids are like a big tied up rubber band ball chasing the ball around the field, he's in the center of the field just practicing Power Ranger moves. And I'm like, let's try martial arts. And so his PE teacher's husband had a studio. So I took him there. He joined. We went to 2 classes, and I couldn't take it just sitting there on the sidelines. So I joined with him.
Uh-huh.
And, it wasn't one of those bubblegum schools where you buy your belts and you get a black belt in 3 years. It took us 12 years to get our black belt.
Oh, wow.
And then no, wait, what did it take us? It took us 9 years to get our first black belt. And him being about 17 then, he quit. All the kids quit after they get their black belts. Like, all right, I did what you said. Now I'm out. And I stayed another 7 years and got my 2nd degree belt.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
But I had to retire because I was getting hurt.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a long time, though.
It was a lot of fun. I loved it. I fell in love with it.
But now you just wish a heckler would come on stage.
Oh, yeah, come bring it.
Right?
Well, the first thing they teach you when you're learning how to fight is how not to fight. So that's what's in your head.
Right.
So
That's why I carry a gun. I don't fight at all.
That's a better way to do it. So I'm easily approachable as long as you're not running at me.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's so cool, man. Does your wife participate in any kind of MMA or martial arts as well?
No, she's athletic and does sports and stuff, but she was more of a runner, biker, triathlon kind of person. She would have been good at martial arts, but nah, she stayed out of that.
It's very athletic family, man. That's pretty crazy.
I wasn't when we first met. She's always been that way, but when she met me, I was just a sit on the couch eating a double quarter pounder guy. I had to work on it.
Okay. Nice.
But I worked on it.
And how many grandkids? I saw a precious video on Facebook months ago with your little granddaughter or something like that. It was adorable.
Yeah, my granddaughter putting chapstick on my face. And she spent a half a stick of chapstick putting it on my face and never hit my lips.
I'm guessing I know this. What's a better day? A sold out show somewhere, 300 people laughing at every single thing you say, or a few hours with your granddaughter?
Few hours with my granddaughter, easily. Easily. Maybe it's because I've done a lot of big shows, but I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you were developing your material, was it ever a thought like my kids might hear this one day, or how are people gonna take this? Was there ever a concern of like the direction you took your material, or did that determine the direction?
Nah, not too much. It was kind of weird. But sometimes I'd write down things that I thought were funny, but I'm picking out of everything in the world. I mean, the kids definitely influenced things, but they didn't take over the whole writing process. I'm one of those guys that has to have a pad in every room because, thoughts go out as fast as they come in. And so I did it that way. And very few things I ever wrote were funny on paper. I had to make them funny on stage. I'd write it and look at it and go, that's great. And then, as you know, the next day you look at it and go, what the hell?
Why?
Why did I write that? So I'd work it out on stage. I audio record every set because I know I'm going to come up with my taglines on stage, and I gotta find them or I'll forget them.
You ever just record yourself and then you know the set was so bad you just didn't even listen back?
Oh yeah, I never listen back unless I say something new. I never listen. It's like watching yourself on video. You got a crowd, your friends are around you laughing their ass off, and you're looking at it going, how the hell did I even get booked?
What is this?
This is awful.
Where was Billy Gardell playing the Godfather music on this one?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just gonna start carrying that on my phone just so I can play it to myself.
That's funny. Do you have any memorable? We talked about your writing and stuff, and I've seen you a few times, and I love it. I love it when you come to Snappers in town, and I've seen you. We worked together at Side Splitters. I did a guest set years ago.
Yeah.
And it was my first time seeing you, and I loved it. And of all the stuff you got going on, any memorable shows in any state, whether it was, like we said before, you had bad and good, but anyone where you go, I got to get back to this venue again, or I got to work with this group again. It could be a private show, a corporate event where you go, wow, this could have been my Netflix special.
Oh yeah, there's a club in Raleigh called Charlie Goodnight's.
Yeah.
That place, back in the 90s, that place was just on fire every single night. And it didn't matter it was one of those places where you could just suck and still kill. And there was a bunch of great shows there. A lot of my great show memories are there. Side Splitters is the same way. And there's a group of guys, back in the I like the feature part of my career. Because when you're featuring, we all know that's the best spot because there's only 30 minutes. The crowd's already warm. You got no pressure. And then you headline and it becomes a job after that because you got a lot more responsibilities. But when you're featuring, you get to work with these amazing headliners that once you start headlining, you never see them again. Those were the funnest shows was when I was the feature working with guys that I was impressed with and just loved. That was fun. That's what I really enjoyed. I used to
work with like one of your heroes before you started working, and all of a sudden you booked with them? Like
a couple of them. I did a week with Bill Hicks.
Oh, nice.
Wow. That was one where we were all in a kind of like in a lottery, and I kind of won that week.
Oh man, no kidding. Wow, yeah, that's awesome.
We'd go in the office, all those green up and coming comics, and there'd be the list of all the headliners coming, and everybody went, oh my God, Bill Hicks. And so many people wanted that. We had to throw names in the hat. Billy wanted it. Everybody wanted it.
Wow.
And he nailed me from the stage because I was still green coming up, and I had this really killer fart bit. And it was the last time I ever did it because he shamed me to death because it killed. And so he goes up on stage and he goes, first thing is I'm not going to resort to fart humor to please losers like you. I mean, that's like his opening line. And I'm in the back just like, oh my God. And so that stopped everything as far as that kind of humor for me at that point. But and then he walked 4 ladies because they weren't laughing, and he walked over and asked them, "Hey, ladies, maybe if you tell me who you think is funny, I can formulate my show into that fashion and possibly give you a better evening." And he's like, and they were like, "We love Arsenio Hall," because he was the hot shit then. And of course, we're in the back going, that couldn't have been a better answer for Bill. and he just stops and goes, "Well, Arsenio Hall can suck Satan's wart-covered cock until green jizz blows the back of his head off." And they all just went, up, turn, go. And we're in the back with our mouths open going, oh, man, just to have that kind of fearlessness would be amazing.
Yeah, just to witness it, you're like, oh, we could do that?
Wow, you can say that and come back?
Yeah, exactly. Get rebooked.
Only if you're Bill Hicks, not if you're
exactly.
Paul. Okay, just so I know. So he was one of the great guys to work with. I got to work with Dana Carvey in a 1,500 or 2,500 seater. That was fun. That taught me a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
That's a whole nother, because all I'd ever done was clubs where it's bang, 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 because the sound bounces back and forth so much. But when you do a theater, you got to hesitate. You'll do your punchline, and you can't go up to the next joke yet because the punchline's still working its way back to the end of the theater, and then it's got to come all the way back to the front before you can start again. And so I learned a lot that way, because at first I was ahead of the crowd, and it took me a second to figure out why. And then I figured it out. The guys in the back are just now getting it.
Wow. Okay.
Do you have a preference of like the clubs or the theater?
I like clubs. Little, low ceiling, 100-seater. That's my favorite. Intimate. Right on you. The bigger it is, it's louder, but it's not necessarily better.
You haven't worked with Tony. Tony is the only guy, and I mean this in the best possible way, is the only guy that's on a mic on stage. I'm going like this. What did he say?
Oh yeah, we work together.
So you're so subdued, Tony, when you talk, and you get into it.
I've opened for Frankie when I first
many
started
times,
out.
yeah, a couple of times. We worked together a few times.
Yeah, and it's like obviously, you're gonna stick around and watch. That's why I was learning myself. How does the headliner work? How does this all work?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd watch his set, and I'm like, I'm not the closer yet.
But you're smart enough to know that. You weren't back there going, I can do it.
I like it.
Let's not rush this.
Great.
There's guys now that I don't know if they're teaching comedy classes or what they're doing, but they'll bring 4 or 5 guys out to watch the headliner and use that as like a field trip.
Oh, wow.
And then, one dude brought 4 or 5 guys to the show just to watch me so he could analyze me from the back with them and tell you see how he leans into the joke? Like he's just like he's not stepping back or looking down and, stuff like that.
That's great. Like you're a tutorial.
Exactly.
Yeah. Pick it. Man.
That's awesome.
I got to get a better camera. I look like a 50-50 cookie, and you guys look amazing.
What's going on? I know you mentioned retirement, but what's going on down the road with Frankie Paul? What do you comedy? Another, as long as you can go. It's one of the beauties of it. You can go as long as you want. How do you see yourself?
I'll probably never totally stop doing shows.
Yeah.
Even though I think I'm gonna. I just won't, because I tell myself, hey, we can quit tomorrow and just throw it all away and walk the other way.
Right.
And I'm talking with Ken Miller. I go, I'm thinking about retiring. He's like, Frankie Paul, what you gonna do with yourself? I was like, you're right, man. I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself. He goes,
One is subscribe. Another one is like, comment, hit notification. And all of these words will help us grow as a channel. Back to our program.